Hi mathematicians, we are back for another lesson using fractions today. Our target is again comparing fractions. We're going to use some models and think about some strategies how those models will work to make accurate comparisons. And then we are also going to think about how to find equivalent fractions using division. So our lesson on Monday, we were multiplying to find a lot of equivalent fractions. This time, what if we have a lot of pieces and we find out we don't need to divide something into that many? So how can we take some parts away? So that's our work for today. So I have some equations on the board that we're going to start with to use as comparisons. And I want you to remember that a fraction is parts of a whole, and those fractions are divided into equal parts. So here, if I have 4 out of 5 parts out of one whole, what do I need to add to make the whole? I would need to add 1/5 more. So 4/5 plus 1/5 equals 1. Here I have 3/4. What do I need to make it one whole? I would need 1/4 more. So by knowing that how many parts make the whole, 4 plus 1 is 5, so this would be 5/5, which is the same as one whole. And here we have 3/4 plus 1/4, which is 4/4, which is one whole. That's going to help me also know how to do some comparisons. So my first equation I have is, which is greater, 4/5 or 3/4? So right here I have 4/5, here I have 3/4. I know that this one needed 1/5 more to make the whole. This one needed 1/4 more. This is the smaller piece, so it's closer to the whole than by missing 1/4 of the piece. So in this case, 4/5 is greater than 3/4 because 4/5 is closer to the whole. That's our benchmark. Let's look at another one. Let's look at 3/4 right here. And I want to compare it to 2/3. Okay, so I know this is missing 1/4 of a piece. The 2/3 is missing 1/3 of the piece. The 4th is closer to the whole than the 1/3 that is missing. Okay, so by adding that 1/4, I'm going to be closer to the whole than the 1/3. So 3/4 is greater than 2/3. What about if I look at 4/6? I'm going up to the top right now. Maybe some of this. 4/6 compared to 5/10. Now if I look at this, I kind of notice that 5 is half of 10. So 5/10 is the same as 1/2. If I'm thinking sixes, what's 1/2 of this would be 3/6. So 3/6 is equal to 1/2 and 5/10 is equal to 1/2. Well, this is 4/6, so it has more. So 4/6 is greater than half. 5/10 is equal to half. Another one to think about, 3/8 and 1/3. Well, here's my 1/3. Here is 3/8. Well, I know 2/8 is about equal to 1/4. And then, so I'm really kind of comparing a 1/4 to a 1/3. Well, 3/3 takes 3 of these to make a whole. It takes 4 of these to make a whole. So 1/3 will be larger than 1/4. But now I'm going to add my other third on here. Oh. So by adding another eighth on here, 3/8 actually shows is larger than 1/3. Here I'm looking at 1/4 and 4/10. Well, this is really close to 1/2. I would only need 1/10. I just need one of these to make 5/10, which would be a whole. 1/4, I'm going to need whole another one of these to make 2/4, which would be half. So I'm thinking my 4/10 right here, my 4/10 is going to be greater than 1/4. So as you're comparing fourth graders, think about benchmarks, landmarks. What number is it closer to a half? Is it closer to a whole? What part's missing? Is that part that's missing going to help that number be closer to a half or closer to a whole? So think of that as you're working. The other thing I want you to think about on your work that's going to come up is kind of having a lot of pieces, and if you find out you don't need as many pieces, how can you use division to find an equivalent fraction? So I'm showing you an example of 2/8, 2 out of 8 parts. And when I think about, oh, I don't really need to I didn't need to divide my shape into that many pieces. What if I take some of the lines out? What if I take out every other line or break it to have 2 times less, which means now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts instead of the 8 parts. So what I did is I really divided 2/8 in half, and when I did that, it ended up being equivalent to 1/4. So just like we were multiplying earlier in the week, we can also divide numbers. So let's look at 8/12. Those are both even, so I know I can divide both 8 and 12 by 2. So if I did that, 8/12 would also be equivalent to 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 8/12 is equal to 4/6. Both of those are still even. I could even divide another time by 2. Which means 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 8/12 is equivalent to 4/6, which is also equivalent to 2/3. And if I started and multiplied by 2, I would have gotten 4/6. Multiplied this times 2, 4 times 2 is 8, 6 times 2 is 12. So that's a couple things on your work. Will also be breaking some of the fractions into bigger pieces rather than having so many smaller pieces. So that's another strategy to use on our fractions this week. So hope your color pencils are sharpened up. You've got some more shading to do and do some comparison of fractions. Think about benchmarks. How much is it away from a whole? How much is your fraction away from a half? And good luck on your finishing your fractions. And then next week, we're going to use your fractions and combine them with some decimals. So that'll be our last week of learning on math. So have fun, get those color pencils going, and see you next time. Bye.